Srivasadi Gaurabhakti. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Shil-
Hare.
Shilpa ji, we
We
have to stay. Yeah,
continue. 8, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. We're continuing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 4, Text 8. Athaha Bhagavan Rishabdeva Swavarsham Karma Kshetram.
अथाह
भगवान्
स्ववर्षकर्मक्षेत्रम्
Anumanyamana Pradarshita Gurukula Vaso Laptavare.
अनुमन्यमान
श्रित
प्रदर्शित
गुरुकुलवासः लब्धवरे
Gurubhir Anugyato Grahamedhinam Dharman Anushikshamano.
गुरुभिः अनुज्ञातगृहमेदीनां धर्मान् अनुशिक्षमाणो
Jayantyam Indra Datayam Ubhaya Lakshanam Karma.
जयन्त्यम्
ताम् इन्द्रदत्तायाम् उभयलक्षणं कर्म
Samam Nayam Natam Abhiyunjan Atmajanam Atma Sama Nanam Shatam Janayam Asha.
सामान्यां
नादम्
नादम्
अभियुञ्जन्
अभियुञ्जन्
आत्मजानम्
आत्मसमानं शतं जनयाम् आस
आत्मजनयाम् आस
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After Nabi Maharaj departed for Badikrashram, the Supreme Lord Rishabdev understood that his kingdom was his field of activities. He therefore showed himself as an example and taught the duties of a householder by first accepting brahmacharya under the direction of spiritual masters. He also went to live at the spiritual master's place, Gurukul. After his education was finished, he gave gifts, Guru Dakshina, to his spiritual masters and then accepted the life of a householder. He took a wife named Jayanti and begot 100 sons who were as powerful and qualified as he himself. His wife Jayanti had been offered to him by Indra, the king of heaven. Rishabdev and Jayanti performed householder life in an exemplary way, carrying out ritualistic activities ordained by the Shruti and Smriti Shastra. So, being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishabdev had nothing to do with material affairs. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The purpose of an incarnation is to liberate his devotees and to stop the demoniac activities of non-devotees. These are the two functions of the Supreme Lord when he incarnates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that in order to preach, one must live a practical life and show people how to do things. So, showing by example. So, Prabhupada is pointing out that Rishabdev, he's an incarnation of God. He has nothing material to do, but he's being an example. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita that, I come and I also perform my duties, because if I were not to do so, then the whole world will be put into a ruination. He says, how a great man acts, common people follow. So we can see here, Rishabdev is also being an example. So Prabhupada is pointing out here that when any incarnation comes, paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam. So the purpose, the Lord comes is to liberate his devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. So these are the two functions of the Supreme Lord when he incarnates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, that the Acharya, he teaches by example. The preacher teaches by example. Apani Achari Bhakti Shikhai Mo Sabare. One cannot teach others unless he behaves the same way himself. Rishabdev was an ideal king, and he took his education in the Gurukul, although he was already educated, because the Supreme Lord is omniscient. So Rishabdev, he had no need to go to Gurukul. Like Krishna, he also went to Gurukul of Sandipani Muni. So being the example, he's setting the example that everyone needs to take a guru. Rishabdev is also saying here, although Rishabdev had nothing to learn from Gurukul, he went there just to teach the people in general how to take an education from the right source, from Vedic teachers. He then entered householder life and lived according to the principles of Vedic knowledge, Shruti and Smriti. In his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.101, Srila Rupa Goswami, quoting the Skand Puran, states, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayeva Kalpate. Human society must follow the instructions received from Shruti and Smriti, Vedic literature. Practically applied in life, this is worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi. So Srila Rupa Goswami, authority in devotional service, he says one should follow Shruti and Smriti. One cannot make up, we cannot imagine any ways of devotional service. We simply have to follow what is already mentioned. Because some people may say, they may just imagine that this is the way to engage in devotional service, but that just creates a nuisance in society. It, in fact, bewilders others, misleads others. We simply have to follow what's already given. Worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the way that's already been given to us. Every human being must advance his spiritual life and at the end return home back to Godhead. So here Prabhupada is using the word must advance in spiritual life. Every human being must advance in spiritual life. We have our own must. I must do this and I must do that. We have our goals. But actually the goal of human life, go back home, back to Godhead. Revive our love for Krishna. Maharaj Rishabdev strictly followed all these principles. He remained an ideal grahast and taught his sons how to become perfect in spiritual life. These are some examples of how he ruled the earth and completed his mission as an incarnation. So he taught by example. Is my voice all right? Are you able to hear me clearly or it's still very low?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
we can hear you.
Yeah, today it's
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
Because, okay, thank you. All right, then coming to text 9. Yesham khalu mahayogi bharato cheshta shreshta guna ase.
Yesham khalo mahayogi bharato cheshta asit
Yene idam varsham bharatam iti vyapadish-shanti.
yene idam varsham bharatam iti vyapadishanti.
Of Rishabdev's 100 sons, the eldest, named Bharat, was a great exalted devotee, qualified with the best attributes. In his honor, this planet has become known as Bharatvarsh. This planet known as Bharatvarsh is also called Punya Bhumi, the pious land. At the present moment, Bharat Bhumi or Bharatvarsh is a small piece of land extending from the Himalaya mountains to Cape Comorin. Sometimes this peninsula is called Punya Bhumi. So actually Bharatvarsh, the whole planet Earth was called Bharatvarsh before. And it's named Bharatvarsh after Maharaj Bharat because he was so famous, he was so glorious that the whole planet was named after him. He was the emperor of the planet. And everyone started calling this Earth planet Bharatvarsh. Now, of course, Bharat is this India, what we call India. Traditionally it was called Bharat. So it's also called Punya Bhumi, pious land. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given special importance to the people of this land. Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmaya, janma sarthaka kari karapara upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Caitaniya Caritamita, Adi Lila, chapter 9, text 41. So this is a instruction by Lord Chaitanya to everyone who is born in Bharatvarsh. So Bharatvarsh is the land India, and Bharatvarsh is the whole planet Earth also. So he's saying everyone, anyone who's taken birth as a human being should make his life successful. How? By working for benefit of other people. And what is the highest benefit for the others? Giving them the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is how we can make our life successful and we can benefit everyone else by giving Krishna to everyone. The inhabitants of this piece of land are very fortunate. They can purify their existence by accepting this Krishna consciousness movement and go outside Bharat Bhumi, India, and preach this cult to benefit the whole world. So this is an instruction from Lord Chaitanya. He's saying anyone born in India should preach. Give Krishna consciousness to everyone. Tam anu kusha varto ila varto brahma varto malaya ketur.
Tam anu kushavta ilavrata brahmavrata malaya ketu.
Bhadrasena Indrasprit Vidarbha Kikata iti Navanavati Pradhanaha.
Bhadrasena Indrasparkah Vidarbha Kikatah iti Navati Pradhanaha.
Following Bharat, there were 99 other sons. Among these were 9 elderly sons named Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malaya, Ketu, Bhadrasen, Indrasprik, Vidarbha, and Kikata. So Rishabdev, Maharaj Rishabdev had 100 sons. Who is the eldest son?
Bharat Maharaj. Bharat.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Bharat Maharaj is the eldest, and there are 99 others. And then the 9 sons' names are mentioned here. And going on. Kavir Havir Antariksha.
Kavir Havi Antariksha.
Prabodha Pipalayana.
Prabodha Pipalayana.
Avir Hotrotha Durmilash.
Avirhotra Atha Durmilash.
Chamasa Karabhajana.
Chamasah Karabhajanaha.
Iti Bhagavata Dharma Darshana Navamaha Bhagavata
Iti Bhagavata Dharma Darshana Navah Mahabhagavata Tesham.
Sucharitam Bhagavan Mahimopa Brahmitam Vasudeva Narada.
Sucharitam Bhagavata Mahima Upabrahitam Vasudeva Naradaha.
Samvadam Upashamayanam Uparishtat Varnayishyamaha.
Samvadam Upshamayanam Uprishtatat Varnayishyamaha.
In addition to these sons were Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Durmila, Chamasa, and Karbhajana. These were all very exalted advanced devotees and authorized preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are the Nava Yogendras. We are going to hear about them later when they give, when they are instructing Maharaj Nimi. These devotees were glorified due to their strong devotion to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they were very exalted. To satisfy the mind perfectly, I, Sukadev Goswami, shall hereafter describe the characteristics of these 9 devotees when I discuss the conversation between Narad and Vasudeva. So Sukadev Goswami is saying these are such great devotees that I'm going to speak about them later when Vasudeva is asking Narad instructions, and Narad, he speaks about these Nava-yogendras. The Nava-yogendras, they are very exalted devotees. They are pure devotees of the Lord, and they are preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam, authorized preachers. You see how Bhagavatam is saying who can preach Bhagavatam also, you know. Yaviyam sa ekashitir jayante ya pitur adeshakara mahashalina maha.
यवीयांसम एकाशिति जायन्ते या पितु अदेशकरा महाशालीन महा
Shrotriya Yagyashila Karma Vishuddha Brahmana Babhuvo.
श्रोत्रिय यज्ञशिला कर्म विशुद्ध ब्राह्मणा बभूव.
In addition to these 19 sons mentioned above, there were 81 younger ones, all born of Rishabdev and Jayanti. According to the order of their father, they became well-cultured, well-behaved, very pure in their activities, and expert in Vedic knowledge and the performance of Vedic rituals. Thus, they all became perfectly qualified Brahmanas. From this verse, we have good information of how the castes are qualified according to quality and work. Rishabdeva, a king, was certainly a Kshatriya. He had 100 sons, and out of these, 10 were engaged as Kshatriyas and ruled the planet. 9 sons became good preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabhagavatas, and this indicates that they were above the position of Brahmanas. The other 81 sons became highly qualified Brahmanas. So we can see, how Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that he has created the Varna Sharma society based on guna and karma, not based on birth. Rishabdev, he's a Kshatriya. He's giving birth to 100 sons, but not all 100 have become Kshatriyas. We are seeing 10 became Kshatriyas. Then 9 became Mahabhagavatas, the Nava-yogendras. They are Mahabhagavatas. And then the other 81 have become Brahmanas. So how big? Depending on the quality, not based on birth. So these are some practical examples of how one can become fit for a certain type of activity by qualification, not by birth. All the sons of Maharaj Rishabdev were Kshatriyas by birth, but by quality, some of them became Kshatriyas and some became Brahmanas. 9 became preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Dharma Darshana, which means that they were above the categories of Kshatriya and Brahmana. So the pure devotee, the Vaishnava, the Mahabhagavat, is above the Varna Sharma system. He does not come into this category of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the pure devotee of the Lord. They are already situated on the liberated platform. Did anyone want to add anything? Any questions?
No, all good.
Oh, so continue reading. Bhagavan Rishabh Samgya Atma Tantra Swayam Nitya.
भगवान ऋषभ संख्य आत्म तंत्र स्वयं नित्य
Nivritanartha Parampara Kevalanandanubhava Ishvara Eva.
निवृत्त अनर्थ परंपरः केवल आनंद अनुभव ईश्वरः एव विपरीत.
Viparitavat karmani arabhamana kalenanu dharmam.
विपरीतवत कर्माणि आरभमाणा कालेन अनुगतं धर्मम्
Acharane no pashikshayan atad vedam sama upashanto maitra.
आचरेण उपशिक्षयन् अतत्विद्वान् सम उपशान्तः मैत्रे
Karuniko dharmartha yasha prajanadam vrtavarodhena graheshu lokam niyamaya.
कारुणिक धर्म अर्थ यशा प्रजा आनंद अमृत अवरोधेन ग्रहेषु लोकं नियमयत
Being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdev was fully independent because his form was spiritual, eternal, and full of transcendental bliss. He eternally had nothing to do with the four principles of material misery: birth, death, old age, and disease. Nor was he materially attached. He was always equipoised and he saw everyone on the same level. He was unhappy to see others unhappy, and he was the well wisher of all living entities. Although he was a perfect personality, the Supreme Lord and controller of all, he nonetheless acted as if he were an ordinary conditioned soul. Therefore, he strictly followed the principles of Varna Sharma Dharma and acted accordingly. In due course of time, the principles of Varna Sharma Dharma had become neglected. Therefore, through his personal characteristics and behavior, he taught the ignorant public how to perform duties within the Varna Sharma Dharma. In this way, he regulated the general populace in householder life, enabling them to develop religion and economic well being, and to attain reputations, sons and daughters, material pleasure, and finally, eternal life. By his instructions, he showed how people could remain householders and at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varna Sharma Dharma. So here Krishna says, no, that I come whenever there is a decline in religious principles, that's the time I come. So here, Lord Rishabdev, he's doing the same. The religious principles have declined. So he's being an example and showing people how to live in society, doing the duties well, and at the end of life, going back home. Of course, Lord Rishabdev, he's not an ordinary soul. He's the Supreme Lord himself. He's an incarnation of Krishna, incarnation of Supreme Lord. So what were the four miseries that we heard just now in the paragraph? The four principal miseries of material world?
Birth, death, old age, disease.
Yeah, that's right. These are actually the miseries: birth, death, old age, and disease. And we need to find a permanent solution to these. And the solution to these is get out of the material world. Just get out of it. So, and the Lord's form is described as what? Lord's form is it material?
Transcendental.
Transcendental. Thank you. Yeah. The Varna Sharma Dharma is meant for imperfect conditioned souls. It trains them to become spiritually advanced in order to return home back to Godhead. So Varna Sharma Dharma is actually a stepping stone to spiritual life. It's a step forward. So a civilization that does not know the highest aim of life is no better than an animal society. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. A human society is meant for elevation to spiritual knowledge so that all of the people can be freed from the clutches of birth, death, old age, and disease. The Varna Sharma Dharma enables human society to become perfectly fit for getting out of the clutches of Maya. And by following the regulative principles of Varna Sharma Dharma, one can become successful In this regard, see Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21 to 24. So following the Varnashrama Dharma and then cultivating spiritual knowledge to get out of the material world, going back home, back to Godhead, to understand what is the purpose of this human civilization, human society. It is to advance in spiritual knowledge, to cultivate spiritual knowledge, to understand our true identity. So that after we give up this body, no need to take up another material body, no need to be in the material world anymore. But at the end of life, go to the spiritual world, live an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge. Yat yat Shresanya Charitam Tat Tat Anuvartate Loka.
Yachirashanya charitam tat anuvartate loka.
Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. A similar verse is also found in Bhagavad Gita 3:21. So we see, same Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they're always speaking the same things, no contradiction. They're always, in fact, telling us the truth, the absolute truth. So whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. Now to literally, right, with the social media, follow. We like to follow on social media so many people who are great in their fields. But we also have to understand who are actually the great people, who are the Mahatmas, and we should follow them, follow the footsteps of the devotees, so that we can also get out of the material world. The pure devotee is liberated soul. So by following them, we can also get out of this material world. So it is essential for human society to have a section of men perfectly trained as qualified brahmanas, according to the instructions of Vedic knowledge. Those below the Brahmanical qualification, administrators, merchants, and workers, should take instructions from those ideal people who are considered to be intellectuals. So the society should be guided by the intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas were the most intelligent. So in Vedic times, they were the ones who would give guidance to the kings. The kings were powerful, good administrators, good managers, good leaders, but they would rule under the guidance of the Brahmanas. And that's how there was peace and prosperity in society. In this way, everyone can be elevated to the highest transcendental position and be freed from material attachment, because the Brahmanas would guide the king, and then the king would make sure that everyone is doing their duty well, everyone is materially peaceful, and that everyone is also cultivating spiritual knowledge. The material world is described by Lord Krishna himself as Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, a temporary place of misery. No one can stay here, even if he makes a compromise with misery. One has to give up this body and accept another, which may not even be a human body. So we may say, okay, this is a temporary place. All right, I agree to accept the misery, but I don't want to give up this body. Cannot. Our time in this body is limited. It will come to an end one day or the other. And that's what Prabhupada is saying. Someone may say, okay, compromise, whatever, how much ever suffering is there, I accept, but I want to continue living in the body. No, we have to give up the body. Then we have to take up another body. And when we take up the other body, it may not be a body of a human being. You know, it depends on what kind of karma we have done. You know, is it that the next body is going to be an animal body or a tree body or a bird body or a reptile body? We don't know. We don't know. That's all decided by the laws of nature, by higher arrangement. As soon as one gets a material body, he becomes Dehabrit or Dehi. Dehi, because we are inside the Deh. This material body is called the Deh. So we become the Dehi, the soul. We are actually the soul, no? In other words, he's subjected to all the material conditions. The leaders of society must be so ideal that by following them, one can be relieved from the clutches of material existence. So this is what is needed. We need leaders who can help us get out of the material world. We need proper education, being educated in the knowledge of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, so that we know how to act and how to give up this body and go back home, back to Godhead. Yadyapi swaviditam sakala dharmam brahmam goyam.
Yadyapi swaviditam sakala dharmam brahmam guyam.
Brahmanir darshita margena samadhivir upayir janatam anushashasa.
Brahmane darshita margena samadhibir upaye janatam anushashasa.
Although Lord Rishabhdev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus, he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer to the state through the Vaishyas and Shudras. Although Rishabhdev knew all the Vedic instructions perfectly well, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas in order to perfectly maintain the social order. So he is the Supreme Lord himself. He's an incarnation of God. So of course he knows all the Vedic principles. So, but to set an example, he's still taking advice from the Brahmanas. He's not saying, yeah, I'm God, I know what to do. No, he's humbly asking them. Even Krishna, he's God himself, yet he would take advice from Uddhav, So whenever God comes, he sets example. Krishna says, I do the duties to set an example, because what a great man does, common people follow. The Brahmanas would give advice according to the Shastras, and all other castes would follow. So it's not that the Brahmanas are giving this advice based on their own sense gratification, their own material desire. No. Real Brahmana means they are following the Shastras, they are following the scriptures. They're giving instructions according to the scriptures for the benefit of everyone. That would be a Brahmana. Not looking at personal benefit, but benefit of whole society. The word Brahma means perfect knowledge of all activities, and this knowledge is very confidentially described in the Vedic literatures. Men trained perfectly as Brahmanas should know all Vedic literature, and the benefit derived from this literature should be distributed to the general populace. So it is the duty of the Brahmanas to study the scriptures and to teach the scriptures. The general populace should follow the perfect Brahmana. In this way, one can learn how to control the mind and senses, and thus gradually advance to spiritual perfection. So control the mind and senses. Krishna also tells to Arjuna in the very beginning, curb this enemy, lust, by controlling the senses. So by the devotees, we can learn. From the devotees, we can learn how to control our mind and senses. This is what Krishna is saying. From the very beginning, curb this symbol of sin by regulating the senses. So when the senses are regulated, the mind will become calm and one can develop spiritual knowledge. So by association of devotees, by following the devotees. Dravya desha kala vaya shraddhartvik vividho desho pachite.
द्रव्यदेशकालवयशतं विविधोद्देशोपचित्ये
Sarver api kratubir yathopadesham shatakritva yaja.
सर्वे अपि क्रतुभिर्यथोपदेशं शतकृत्वा इयाज.
Lord Rishabdev performed all kinds of sacrifice 100 times according to the instructions of the Vedic literatures. Thus he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first-class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who were all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu was worshipped and the prasad was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and festivals were all successful. It is said, Kaumara acharit pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha. Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 6, Text 1. A ritual should be performed by young men, even boys at a tender age, in order for the ritual to be performed successfully. From childhood, people should be trained in Vedic culture, especially in devotional service. So this training of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, should be given since childhood, so that a person knows how to act, how not to act. In this way, one can perfect one's life. A Vaishnav does not disrespect the demigods, but on the other hand, he is not so foolish that he accepts each and every demigod as the Supreme Lord. So a Vaishnav, he gives respect to everyone, even to an ant. So what to speak of demigod? Demigods are great personalities. They're powerful personalities, they are qualified personalities, they are devotees of the Lord. So they are worthy of our respect. But the devotee, the Vaishnav, he understands that only God is God, that the demigods are not God, that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is only Lord Sri Krishna or Lord Vishnu. He understands the demigods as parts and parcels of God, as servants of God. The Supreme Lord is master of all demigods. Therefore, demigods are his servants. The Vaishnav accepts them as servants of the Supreme Lord and he worships them directly. So, in Brahma Samhita, the important demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and even the incarnations and expansions of Lord Krishna, like Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and all the other Vishnu Tattvas, as well as the Shakti Tattvas like Durga Devi, are all worshipped by the processes of worshipping Govinda with the words Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. A Vaishnav worships the demigods in relation to Govinda, not independently. So Lord Brahma is teaching us, he's showing us in his song Brahma Samhita, the position of Lord Shiva, the position of Durga Devi, also of Ganesh, and all the Vishnu, the Purusha avatars, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Mahavishnu. So he's showing us that everyone is a servant of Krishna. Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. So understands the demigods as parts and parcels of Krishna, not independent gods. Vaishnavas are not so foolish that they consider the demigods independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Caitaniya Caritamita. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasabhabritya. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasabhabritya. The Supreme Master is Krishna and all other are his servants. So even the great demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Durga Devi, all are servants of Krishna. And all the scriptures say this. All the scriptures, all the great authorities, Lord Brahma is a great authority by himself. He's himself saying this in the Brahma Samhita. All the Vedas say that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Master and everyone else are the servants. Any questions, comments? Anyone wanted to add anything?
No, good.
Okay. So going on. Bhagavatarshebena parirakshayamana etasmin varshena kaschana.
Bhagavatarshebena parirakshayam rakshayaman mana etasim varshe na kaschana.
Purusho vanchati avidyamanam evatmano nyasmat kathanchana.
Purusho vanchati avidyamana manam ivatmano anyasmat kathanchana.
Kimapi karhichit avekshate bhartari anu savanam vijripita snehati antarena.
Kimapi karhichit avekshate bhartari anusavanam virripita snehatishayam antarena.
No one likes to possess anything that is like a will o' the wisp or a flower in the sky, for everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabdev ruled this planet of Bharatvarsh, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asked for a will o' the wisp. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. In Bengal, the word Gora Dimba is used, which means the egg of a horse. Since a horse never lays an egg, the word Gora Dimba actually has no meaning. So something which is like does not exist, horse does not lay eggs. So there's no meaning to having a horse's egg. In Sanskrit, there is a word Kha Pushpa, which means the flower in the sky. No flower grows in the sky. Therefore, no one is interested in asking for Kha Pushpa or Gora Dimba. During the reign of Maharaj Rishabdev, people were so well equipped that they did not want to ask for anything. They were immensely supplied with all necessities for life due to King Rishabdev's good government. Consequently, everyone felt full satisfaction and did not want anything. This is the perfection of government. If the citizens are unhappy due to bad government, the heads of government are condemned. During these democratic days, monarchy is disliked by the people. But here is an example of how an emperor of the whole world kept all the citizens fully satisfied by supplying the necessities of life and following the Vedic principles. Thus, everyone was happy during the reign of Maharaj Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So nobody had the need to ask anything because everyone was so happy. Everyone's needs were met, or whatever needs they had, they were met. They were being ruled in a very nice manner. So they were very happy. Sa kadachit atmano bhagavan rishabho brahma vartagato.
Kadachit atmano bhagavan rishabho brahma vartagato.
Brahmarshi pravara sabhayam prajanam nishamya nishamayantinam atmajan.
Brahmarshi pravara sabhayam prajanam nishamayantinam atmajan.
Avahitatmana prashraya pranaya bhara sunyantritan api upashikshayan iti hovacha.
Avahitatmanaha prashraya pranaya bhara suyantritan api upashikshayan iti hovacha.
Once, while touring the world, Lord Rishabdev, the Emperor, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. There was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmanas there. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdev instructed his sons, although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified. He instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus he spoke as follows. The instructions of Lord Rishabdev to his sons are very valuable if one wants to live peacefully within this world, which is full of miseries. In the next chapter, Lord Rishabdev gives his sons these valuable instructions. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Characteristics of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And tomorrow we can begin the chapter 5, Lord Rishabdev's teachings to his sons, in which Lord Rishabdev is going to give the instructions to his sons of how to live in the world. We'll just read this description. In this chapter, there is a description of Bhagavad Dharma, religious principles in devotional service that transcend religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. It is stated in this chapter that a human being should not work hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification. The human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And to this end, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. So each and every one of us has a eternal loving relationship with God. And we need to revive this relationship. We need to do the things which will help us revive the relationship. You know, like any relationship in the material world, we have to put in the work, put in the effort. Similarly, our relationship with God, even though it's eternal, now we have forgotten it. So we need to cultivate it. So for this, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. By austere activities, one's heart can be cleansed of material contamination, and as a result, one can be situated on the spiritual platform. So austerities in connection to Krishna. We don't actually perform really very austere activities, not just observe like fasting days, Janmashtami, Ekadashi. So everything in connection to devotional service to Krishna. To attain this perfection, one has to take shelter of a devotee and serve him. So we need to get the shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord. Serve him. Then the door of liberation will be open. Mahat Seva Dwara, that the doors of heaven open, the doors of the spiritual world open when one serves the devotee. Those who are materially attached to women and sense gratification gradually become entangled in material consciousness and suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. So material attachment keeps us here in the material world. Those who are engaged in general welfare of all and who are not attached to children and family are called Mahatmas. Those who are engaged in sense gratification, who act piously or impiously, cannot understand the purpose of the soul. So being attached to the devotee, Maharaj Rishabdev is saying, attachment to the devotee. This is what Lord Kapila also said in the 3rd canto to his mother, Devahuti. Attached to the devotee, follow the instructions of the devotee, serve the devotee. So therefore, they should approach a highly elevated devotee and accept him as a spiritual master. So we need to accept a spiritual master, but he should be a pure devotee of the Lord. By his association, one will be able to understand the purpose of life. Under the instructions of such a spiritual master, one can attain devotional service to the Lord, detachment from material things, and tolerance of material misery and distress. So, by following the instructions of such a pure devotee, such a spiritual master, one gets detached from the material world, one is able to tolerate the sufferings, and one engages in devotional service. Because one is engaging in devotional service, one is able to tolerate the miseries, and one is able to get detached from the material world. One can then see all living entities equally, and one becomes very eager to know about the transcendental subject matters. Endeavoring persistently for the satisfaction of Krishna, one becomes detached from wife, children, and home. He is not interested in wasting time. In this way, one becomes self-realized. Of course, doesn't mean artificial renunciation. No artificial. Whatever duties are there, those duties need to be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. One need not artificially renounce family life. One stays in family. Whatever duties are there, perform them for the pleasure of Krishna, without material attachment. So he is not interested in wasting time. In this way, one becomes self-realized. A person advanced in spiritual knowledge does not engage anyone in material activity. And one who cannot deliver another person by instructing him in devotional service should not become a spiritual master, father, mother, demigod, or husband. So Rishabdev is saying that one should not become a father, mother, demigod, or a husband, or a spiritual master if one is not able to guide the others in devotional service of the Lord. Instructing his 100 sons, Lord Rishabdev advised them to accept their eldest brother Bharat as their guide and Lord, and thereby serve him. Of all living entities, the Brahmanas are the best, and above the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas are situated in an even better position. Serving a Vaishnava means serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Sukadev Goswami describes the characteristics of Bharat Maharaj and the sacrificial performance executed by Lord Rishabdev for the instruction of the general populace. So, serving the devotee means serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we are going to read from the text one tomorrow. We'll stop here for today. Did anyone want to add anything?
Just seeing what a different picture we see it during those times and look at it now. Oh God, so different.
That's what comes to mind. Yeah, that's what's coming to my mind too, you know. Because before was a God-conscious society. People were ruled by God, by the devotees.